NASCAR gets back in. There you go. By the way, Black Rifle Coffee Company, veteran-owned coffee company serving premium coffee to people who love America. Go to blackriflecoffee.com/herd. 20% off your first coffee club order. Joy Taylor with the news.
No. Herd on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
All right, Colin. Well, you've been talking a lot about J.J. Watt and this is kind of a theory you have that he might go to the Packers.
Yeah, I think he's a perfect Green Bay Packer. He'd accept the trade. They could use him. They need cap relief, and Green Bay's not outside Aaron Rodgers. Who's Green Bay paying big money to? They're not. They're not paying anybody big money.
Well, J.J. Watt could also be on the trading block, and the team reportedly knows they have to make a decision about his future soon. According to James Palmer, coaches and teammates reportedly believe Watt has played his final game as a member of the Texans.
I'm going to throw this out. So what would Green Bay... Again, Green Bay's an organization. They've got a really good team. Outside of one or two positions, they don't have a lot. I mean, their offensive line's set, so they don't have a lot of positions they can draft and start. They could use an edge rusher. J.J. Watt would fill that. I think they could use, in my opinion, another good corner. We saw that against Tampa. But again, I think J.J. Watt is really attractive on the market. Hardworking, at times can be dominant. A little bit of an injury history, but again, you're getting an older J.J. Watt for a good football team that needs an impact rush end.
No, I agree with you. The question with J.J. Watt is majorly his injury issues. He's been on the IR 3 of the last 5 seasons. He had back surgery in 2016, left leg surgery in 2017, he had pec surgery in 2019. Only played 8 games. He only has 1 year left on his 6-year, $100 million contract extension with no guaranteed money left. So Texans could cut him and save $17.5 million against the cap, and any team trading for Watt would take on his $17.5 salary for only next season. Yeah. So it's not like he has a massive salary.
It's a Super Bowl contender that needs at the trading deadline a rusher.
He is a disruptor.
There's no question. When he's healthy, no question.
So I agree with you. And I'd love to see him finish his career with a contender.
I am not going to be humble if he goes to the Packers.
No, I don't think you should be.
I will be so obnoxious if he goes to the Green Bay Packers because he's a perfect fit, and I called it, and he went and played football at Wisconsin.
I will encourage that level of obnoxiousness if you're right. So Dan Campbell and the Lions are set up well for the future. They have 2 first-round picks coming from the Rams and the Stafford trade, but that doesn't mean they don't also plan on winning right away. Campbell said, of course I want to win now, and we'll do whatever we can to win now, but not to sacrifice what we can become long-term. I look at things 2 years out. I don't look at them right now. I know that's crazy in this business, but if you want to have long-term success, something you can sustain, you have to build it properly. You have to have building blocks. You have to have a core. That is a much better...
Analyst is joining us. You know, I was thinking about this. So a couple years ago when Belichick beat Sean McVay came out a week later and said, I overcoached. I put too much on our plate. And it's interesting, Jimmy. This is the only time you get 2 weeks. Outside of the opening week of the season, you get 2 weeks here. Is there a danger, go to your experience, where you start to outthink yourself a little bit?
Well, one thing we wanted to do, Colin, is the first week we got all the physical work in, and we got in about 80% of our game plan. But we saved some of the wrinkles for the second week. We didn't want our players to get bored with the game plan. We wanted them to be alert that second week. So we saved 20% of our game plan that second week getting ready for the Super Bowl.
You know, Andy Reid has the best record in the NFL off a bye. And I've always felt the better the coach, the better he is with more time to prepare. Some coaches don't know what they're doing, and you give them 3 weeks, they don't know. Andy Reid off a bye. If you're Bill Belichick, are you sitting there this morning thinking, okay, he's going to throw in stuff we've never seen? Do you think Belichick's thinking that?
Well, I think, first of all, I believe in Andy Reid with his accolades, the way he is after a bye, but I'm also going to throw accolades your way and Joy's way for your recognition. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you very much.
But Andy Reid's one of the great coaches of the NFL in history. And like you say, if you give him enough time, he's going to have them ready. And with the talent that they have, it's going to be a heck of a ball game. I'm concerned about the offensive tackles, for Kansas City because, Tampa, they've got that outside rush. But it should be a great ball game.
So last year, it was you. I thought about this during the break. Before the draft last year, you said Detroit should go get a quarterback, Justin Herbert. You got a lot of heat for that. But it's funny.
I got ripped, Colin. I was on your show. I said, hey, quarterback value. You'd rather have the quarterback like a Justin Herbert, rather than a defensive back. Well, as it turned out, people were ripping me right and left saying, hey, we've got Stafford. We don't need another quarterback. We got other needs. They drafted the defensive back, Okua, and he didn't play that well. How would they look right now with the quarterback already with a rookie salary cap, and they could have traded Stafford, to, say, Carolina, and actually got more than what they got from the Rams?
It's interesting, Jimmy. You created a trade chart. People did not trade before you were. They didn't. The Giants had made one trade ever before you came to Dallas and changed the paradigm of the league. That trade chart, which shows value, what a picks mean, is still used today. So when I look at the Rams, they gave up 6 picks to get Goff and 3 to get rid of him. I imagine on your trade chart, that's not the way it works. They gave up too much?
Well, the only thing is, I always discounted a pick if you had the year. So in essence, that number 1 is going to probably be a late number 1. Since they have the use of the player, it would be a 2. And then the pick, the 1, 2 years from now, that's going to be like a 2. Now, Detroit doesn't care because they're not going to win this year anyway. And so those ones will be valuable when they start to win, when they start bringing in players. So you really look at what the Rams gave up. They gave up a decent 2 and a 3, and this year's 3.
Yeah. Deshaun Watson.
And they got rid of a bad contract on top of that.
Yeah, well, they're going to get some cap hit this year, but over time, you're right. It is a bad contract over time. So Deshaun Watson is literally scrubbed his social media. He doesn't even want to talk about the Houston Texans. Jimmy, I know he's good. But if John Gruden called me and gave me Derek Carr, 4 first-round picks, and tight end Darren Waller, I got to be honest with you. There's something that would get me to trade Deshaun Watson, right? Like, would you take the calls?
There's a price on everything, but I would go down every single avenue as far as keeping Watson, because if they don't have Watson, he's more valuable than Stafford. He's more valuable than what Herschel Walker was to us. A franchise quarterback that's young, that's got a decent contract once they get rid of the deferred bonus money. He would be one of the top players in the league, and you don't replace that. Houston got no shot if they don't have Watson.
Yeah, that's interesting. I want to go back to the Super Bowl. You know Bill. You fish with Bill. You spend time with Bill. You go back to these Super Bowls, and they've never scored a touchdown in the first quarter. It's very funny. He very much feels out the game, which is an interesting perspective. I grew up watching and idolizing Muhammad Ali. Muhammad was not a guy that came out and knocked people out in the first round. He always felt the fight. He framed the fight. What am I dealing with here? Go back to your Super Bowls. Bill Walsh, he got on top of you. He'd script those plays and get on top of you. How did you view the first quarter of the Super Bowl? Did you cautious, aggressive? Where'd you go?
It really depended on the opponent. When we look at, let's say the NFC Championship game, my first Super Bowl run, the 49ers were a better football team than us. I fully expected they were going to be stacking it up for Emmitt Smith running the football. We came out throwing the ball all over the field, hit a deep one to Alvin Harper, throwing it to Michael Irvin, and then we started running late. Whereas against Buffalo in the Super Bowl, I knew they were going to turn the ball over, so I wasn't going to give them a chance. We were going to be very conservative. I told the players the night before the game, we're going to be extremely conservative to start the game off. But we'll be fine. We'll open it up later on. We'll wait until they start turning it over, then we'll open it up.
How about that?
It just depends on the opponent, Colin.
Yeah. Your gut feeling. I just kind of have a feeling, Jimmy, Kansas City